South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
And it is Championship Sunday here in the National Football League. I'm Jeff Parles alongside the one and only Alex White alongside. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am. I'm here. That's always step one, right? It was supposedly going to rain here tomorrow, which is exciting for us. No, the weather we will get to across the country with these 2 games. We are in a scenario here where we obviously have 2 conference championship games to be broken down here on the show. The Bear, Chris Felica, joins us in 15 minutes. Vinny Magliulo will show up at some point, more likely than not at 9:40. But hey, look, when Vinny shows up, Vinny comes on the air. I'm trying to match the hair, but I can't. I just can't match Vinny's hair. It's unmatchable these days. Before we get into all the NFL-related things, and we have a lot, obviously, even though it's only 2 games. We'll have in not even 12 hours from now, we will know who is playing in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans 2 weeks from today. 3 of these teams were expected to be in this position going into the year. 1, not so much. We'll get to that in a moment. Real quick, though, college hoops. I just want to get this out of the way because there's a bunch of games that start moments from now. Maryland and Indiana getting going in Bloomington in moments, 3.5 to 2.5 on this game. Legitimately just moved to 2.5 like 12 seconds ago. So, Alex, if you like Indiana, you probably are at the bottom of the barrel here, but I don't know if Maryland should be a road favorite in this game. A little bit surprised by that one.
I thought the number came just right here, both on the side and the total. So nothing for me. Nothing really jumped out. You were looking more at the dog, but you like to...
Yeah,
like that 3.
Stomaching betting on Indiana is not a fun thing right now, Alex. That's all I'll say on that. UAB and Memphis. Memphis really had to work earlier in the week. Needed a nice little comeback to beat Wichita State on Thursday. Now they take on UAB. Andy Kennedy's squad has won 5 in a row after a very lackadaisical non-con where they went 7-6. Much better than AAC play. 158 your total in this one. 2 top 100 tempos in this game with Memphis laying 7.
And that's exactly where I'm going. I'm going over 158 in this one. If you look at their 2 games last year too, 97-88 and 106-87. So both of them will play up tempo, and UAB really has not been great on defense. So I think we'll get a lot of points in this one.
Nebraska and Wisconsin. Huskers 7-point underdogs on the road in Madison this afternoon. Badgers kind of quietly just going under the radar. They did lose at UCLA earlier this week in a highly competitive game. Before that, the Badgers had won 7 in a row. The Huskers kind of on the outside looking in right now on the NCAA tournament because of this horrific stretch. Started the year 12-2 and 2-1 in Big Ten play. 5 straight losses, including a loss at home to USC earlier this week, where they were a nice size favorite. 7-151 the total on this one. Alex, I would only take the 7 with Nebraska in this game, but there is the concern that this avalanche is well on its way right now with the Huskers, and boy, they don't stop it today.
Yeah.
They're going to be a home dog to Illinois. They're going to be a dog at Oregon. They're going to have to find a way to at least slow it down at some point. But this 5-game avalanche has a real chance of sliding all the way to 8 at this rate.
I mean, 4 of the 5 really good teams there, but you're right. They really struggled to even put up points. 68 against Purdue, 66 against Maryland. I would look at Wisconsin here with having a nice bounce back spot coming off of that loss, but nothing official in this one.
Illinois and Northwestern, Illini played in Evanston earlier this year. Remember those weird December conference games that have to be played now because there's so many games in conference, 20 total in the Big Ten now. Illinois went to Evanston and lost. It was a nice win for Northwestern on a Friday in December. Wildcats have been kind of a mixed bag here. They're 3-5 in conference. Other than the Illinois game, they beat Maryland in a coin flip overtime game. They beat Indiana earlier this week. This number feels about right here at 8. If anything, maybe a little shallow on Illinois, but Northwestern in a very similar spot last Sunday was getting 9 against Michigan, forced overtime, covered with relative ease in that game.
Yeah, I would look at the favorite, if anything, here for the little bit of a revenge spot here for Illinois. But the total is what I'd really be interested in. Already got bet up, though, so now I think you're kind of at the point where you can't take it over. But if you got a 147 last night, you're doing pretty well.
Then the last one on the board we'll talk about here, Oklahoma State, one of the weaker teams, if not the weakest team in the Big 12 on the road in Lubbock. This is a lot of points, 18.5 with Tech laying it at home with a total of 146. This is all what you're willing to stomach here. Are you willing to lay almost 20 in a conference game? If you are, that's the side I would look at here. It is a ton of points. I get it. But this Oklahoma State team is well off from being competitive in this high-end league. Last time out, they covered against Arizona. They were big dogs, lost by 14 earlier in the week. But I think this is a game where Oklahoma State struggles to score and struggles to defend. That is a bad mix of things. It would only be a lay of a huge number with the Red Raiders here.
They do like to run, though. The Cowboys do. If they can put up enough points here, I think we could get an over, especially with the way Tech has been playing. And they're 7th right now, offense efficiency. So, again, kind of how much you're willing to stomach there if you're going to trust the Cowboys to put up some points.
Tech is the team that is not appreciated properly by the pollsters and is very much appropriately rated by the bookmakers, the analytics makers. They are clearly a top 15 team to me, unranked right now, which is a little bit silly to me. You only have a real shot to beat Iowa State. They lose at home to Central Florida. I mean, it's a good team, and they're playing well, too. Of course, they beat Arizona, and they went to Cincinnati earlier in the week and really controlled that game against a Bearcat team that is obviously on a slide right now as they got toasted in Provo last night, losing by 28 as 7-point underdogs. All right. Let's move to the real show here. Let's move to what everyone came to listen to us for here today. 53 minutes on 2 football games here today. The Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles are up first, and they are the ones who are up first here today. 12 Pacific time, 3 o'clock locally at the Link in South Philly. Alex, I'll just ask you this first before we dive in here, because obviously your power ratings continue to move as even with all the playoffs and as we move from 32 down to 4 available in the NFL. How much have you had to raise Washington over the last 2 weeks now, where they go on the road as an underdog, beat Tampa in the first round. They go on the road as nearing over a touchdown against Detroit and go on the road and win that game by 2 touchdowns. How much have you had to elevate the Commanders the last 2 weeks because of those results?
I had a few points each week, so it is a pretty big jump there. I think about 4. So right now I've got them a 105, point and a half worse than Philadelphia, which,
Oh, wow.
I would say 4 points within the last few weeks, but that did start throughout the regular season and their win streak. So it has been a climb now with that nice 5-game stretch they had going into the playoffs too. So yeah, they're up there power rating wise.
So Washington, let's just start here. Of course, the Commanders win last week, pull the upset, +5 in the turnover battle against Detroit, ends up being the difference. Now, today, they're going to be without Daron Payne, which is a big deal on that defensive front for Washington, especially against a monster offensive line in Philadelphia and a monster running back in Saquon Barkley. As we know, obviously, Barkley had a huge end of the game in Philadelphia against these guys on a Thursday night. Really, his legs put that game away in a Philadelphia victory on that night in November. But it's just more so than anything for Washington here. This team was one of the lower win totals in the NFC. Books that offered least wins in the NFL had them as a top 5 candidate.
Wow.
For that. They were triple digits to make the Super Bowl. Forget win the Super Bowl. They were 200, as high as 250 or 300 to 1 preseason to make the Super Bowl at some shops. To win the Super Bowl, I should say. They were 100 to 1, 150 to 1 to make it at some shops. This has been an unprecedented run by Washington to this point. You just don't see teams in the NFL that are that far down the board get this far in this era. It just doesn't happen very often. And to do it with a rookie quarterback, a head coach who is in his first year with this team, it has been astounding what Washington has done. And now they run into Philadelphia, where Alex, we've talked about this all year with Philadelphia. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, we had to lower their power rating because the first 4 weeks, they did not look like a team that would be capable of this. Sure, injuries played a huge role in that. But I got to give your dad a lot of credit because he was the first one, I think, of all of us to really move Philly up into the, hey, they are a top 3 team. And he did it a lot earlier than I know I did. And since then, they've only lost 1 time, and that was that game against Washington where Jalen Hurts got concussed in that game in the first quarter.
You're right. And I mean, they are pretty complete here, the Eagles. The one concern for today is how healthy is Jalen Hurts? Because, I mean, I think if you compare them to Washington, they're better defense, and that is the biggest concern for Washington coming into this. I mean, it's a big step up. I think the Lions' defensive injuries finally caught up to them, and now they're going to face this really tough Philly defense. So how healthy is Jalen Hurts, coming off of the concussion? Now hurts his leg last week. So I really want to see that pregame before jumping in here.
So you and I are mostly in the same camp on the Jalen Hurts thing. Now, that tackle was brutal. He has been removed from the injury report. So the party line, at least for Philadelphia, is he is 100% ready to go and he is 100% healthy. I'm not so sure about that, even with what that injury report was. Now, you're in a scenario where, again, you mentioned it, Washington's defense is the weakest of the 4 units, but last week they forced 5 turnovers. So they were a huge deal in that victory in Detroit. But look, this is going to be a fun game to break down. Right now, Philadelphia is a 6-point favorite behind us. The total is 47. Real quick, I'll bring this up before we bring our friend the Bear in. The weather in Philadelphia is pretty reasonable, all things considered. 40 degrees, overcast, wind between 7 and 9 miles an hour. So we're not going to have a crazy wind bowl. The snow that was there last week is nowhere to be found here today. The weather is pretty darn good, all things considered, in Philadelphia today. And look, for Washington, so far this postseason, and actually dating back to week 18, because they played inside in Arlington as well. Granted, obviously, totally different game. This is the first game that is being played outside of the high 50s temperature-wise. And this is also, again, Tampa, there was limited win that day as well. Right. So it's been ideal conditions for 3 consecutive weeks for Washington. Commanders trying to become the first team to win 4 consecutive road games, which would include the final week of the regular season and then the 3 in the postseason in order to make the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels looking to become the first rookie to ever make the Super Bowl. He's already just the 3rd rookie to win 2 postseason road games, joining Joe Flacco and Mark Sanchez. Did it back-to-back years in 2008 and 2009. All right, we'll take a quick break. Alex and I will have plenty of thoughts on this game as we roll through here the next 45 minutes. We have more bets on both of these games. But when we get back, our guy Chris Felica of Fox Sports will join us next. His thoughts on Conference Championship Sunday right here on Sports by the Book.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza. Plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book. Over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here on a Sunday morning out here in Vegas. Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside me. And now joining us, one of our favorites. He's a man who beat Chris Andrews out of the Ohio State-Georgia prop on Monday, officially with Ohio State winning the national championship. You, of course, see him as well on Fox Sports and the Bear Bets podcast. Our good friend, the Bear himself, Chris Felica, with us right now. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, and I appreciate the congrats, but I think Chris actually was okay with that.
He was.
He probably owes me a nice dinner at Michael's when I come on out there to cash that ticket for the ticket for that trip in March. But yeah, I think that worked out okay for him because I think he wound up moving that number quite a bit to the people taking the field. But in the end, it was as simple as Ohio State and Georgia, but really Ohio State. And but I think more congratulations are in store for Alex. Congrats on your second place finish there on the Circa Friday Football Invitational. Chuck and yourself set a pretty high bar this year, so congrats to you for that.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
It was again that competition. We've not said it enough of just how great an accomplishment that was for Alex to finish second. And how many were 25 were in the field this year, right? 25, in the Circa Invitational. And Alex, a nice check as well on top of the great handicapping as well. When it's all said and done in that competition. Former champion himself, also that competition, Chris Felica, as well.
Yeah,
so,
lost the tiebreaker for third this year, though, damn it.
Yeah, well, they get those best bets in the end, Chris. Play that heavy role in that competition. All right, let's go to these games here today, Chris. Let's start in South Philly. Eagles, Commanders, obviously, Commanders not expected to be here even before the postseason. They weren't expected to be here. Sure as hell not expected at the beginning of the year to even be close. Philly, of course, the meltdown at the end of last year. changed the coordinators. We've said it a few times on this show. There may not have been a bigger offseason acquisition coaching-wise than Vic Fangio, and it has showed up in this postseason already. Eagles are 6, totals 47. Weather looks pretty good in Philadelphia here for this one, with the winner, of course, going to New Orleans in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I did wind up ultimately laying the 6 here with the Eagles. If it lands 5, I'll swallow my medicine on taking the worst of the number. It feels like Washington is a little bit of a trendy underdog, which doesn't mean they can't win, but I think you basically have to make a decision one way or the other with Washington here. What team are they? Like, if you want to draw like a parallel to past playoff performance, are they like those Giants teams that got to the Super Bowl as a wild card and they were just the now team and they won on the road and they got it done and they got to the Super Bowl? Or is a little bit of a comparison that you might appreciate, or maybe not appreciate, at least understand, with 2010 Jets?
Oh, yeah.
You're in the playoffs, not really much expected. You're going to Indy, but you got to play Peyton. You're not going to beat Peyton in Indianapolis, and you want to beat Peyton in Indy. Cool, we got to win, but we just lost to the Patriots by 1 million on Monday night. You're not going to go to New England and win, but awesome, great run, got to win. And you go to New England and win. And now it's like, oh my God, we will absolutely beat Pittsburgh. We'll go there and win. And ultimately, you didn't, and the team was just done and run out on energy and fumes, and you just kind of ran up against it. So, if you want to just draw like a parallel to like teams of the past, I think you have that. But at the same time, I mean, you look at Philadelphia, even with a Kenny Pickett at quarterback in that last game in D.C., they put up 33 points. Washington hasn't been able to stop Saquon Barkley in that running game in either meeting. No Daron Payne. Are they really going to get 5 turnovers, 4 picks from Hurts or whomever is playing quarterback today? I don't know. I did lay the 6 here. It feels like one of those games that either Philadelphia blows them out or Washington pulls the outright upset, but that's ultimately where I landed here.
Chris, I've really struggled with this total, been back and forth. I actually made it 49, but I'm concerned with Philly's defense. I do think they will be able to shut down this Commanders offense. You found a different way to play the total. What did you do?
Yeah, I wound up playing the Philadelphia team total over 26.5. The thing that I am surest about in this game is that Philly's going to score points. Like I said, 33 points in that second meeting. The fourth quarter of that first game. Remember, Jalen Hurts kind of got knocked into oblivion, as Mike Tyson would say, in that first game. He probably played a good bit of that game with a little bit of a concussion syndrome there. They scored 20 points in the fourth quarter, really wound up wearing Washington out and running the ball up and down the field. So I played an over 26.5 team total for the Eagles here. Ultimately, that's the thing I feel most confident about, that the Eagles will score points here at home against a Washington defense that really kind of has been a boomer bust. And I don't think you can rely on turnovers again. And then I took a little bit of a prop long shot flyer on Dallas Goedert to lead the conference championship weekend in receiving yards at 25-1. Again, if Jalen Hurts is limited, we saw last week, I know the snow game, weather may have affected the decision making and play calling, but it was kind of quick drop, one step, just get rid of the ball and get out to your first read, which more often than not is Dallas Goedert. So with so many weapons there for Kansas City, so many weapons for the Bills, you ultimately don't know who it's going to be. I feel pretty good that Dallas Goedert is in store for a big day today.
Chris, I just want to ask you this, because Alex and I discussed this a little bit in the open, and it's kind of been a revolving conversation on these shows this week of just Jalen Hurts himself with the health-wise. Took that vicious hit at the end of the game last week, was able to complete it. The interview after the game, whoever made the cocktail up for him did a very nice job. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
But there is there has to be a little bit of concern with that knee, even though he's come off the injury report. He practiced in full at the end of the week, but that was a vicious hit that he took. And this is a guy who we saw play hurt last year down the stretch. Mm-hmm. And he went from a top 10 quarterback to a bottom 10 quarterback in that last month when he was not 100% healthy.
Yeah, I think you do. Obviously, you need to have some type of concern, but I think with their ability with that offensive line and the weapons they have around him and their ability to run the ball, not only with Barkley, but with Gainwell as well, I think that offsets it some. It was funny when I initially saw the injury, I was a little concerned that I thought it might have been like his groin area, the way that he kind of like bent back, and then they obviously said, like even he after the game kind of said, yeah, well, I got through the game, like when asked him how he was going to be next week. So I think there probably is a little bit of in the back of his mind, a little bit of concern as to how he feels, but until you go out there and play, like I love when they say, oh, hey, practice in full. What really is practice in full on Friday during conference championship week? He probably didn't do a whole lot, but if he was out there moving around, I guess that's good enough for Philly. And they'll need him to make a couple of throws because the Eagles' offense, again, the first game, I don't know how much you can really go into that after being off for 20 days, and then a weather game. So they'll need him to be a heck of a lot better than he was the first 2 games.
Last one on this game, I just want to ask your thoughts on Dan Quinn and what he has done there and just how we've seen them go for it so consistently on 4th down, and if we could kind of see that hurt them here today against this Eagles defense.
As you guys know, that's the thing. I mean, Dan Quinn, it was funny when they hired him, like he was the last hire in the coaching cycle. Like people were like, oh, Dan Quinn, the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. They made it to the Super Bowl.
Right.
He was a good coach in Atlanta, and the result of that game and the way they collapsed, ultimately, we just became the narrative there. But everything from the front office hires to Quinn to drafting Daniels, everything has worked out. But this is something that why I kind of think like either the Eagles blow them out, win by 14, 17 points, or Washington wins, because those 4th down conversions are. It's not going to say coin flippy, but they're just high variance plays. Like if you convert them, then great. But if you don't convert them, like the Lions didn't last week, then you may potentially put yourself in a bad position. But I kind of hope for the good of the game's sake that the take the points crowd kind of retired last week after you had Washington convert 4 out of 5, and then there was another one where the Lions had the 12 men on the field penalty. So. More often than not, it's beneficial to go for it on 4th down, and I'm glad to see Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury and this Washington organization embrace it, because I think more often than not, it's going to lose games. You got 4 downs, use them, but again, if you don't make it, it's kind of it's a results-based thing. If you make it, you get great rah. But if you don't, then you get caveman football man coming out. You got to take the points and you got to punt and pin them deep. But I'm all for going for it and being aggressive.
Well, again, it's funny when you have a generational year like Washington has had on 4th down. I mean, they're still over 80% on 4th down this year, which is just unfathomable. But look, when you watch the games and you see the play, and credit to Kingsbury, but more importantly, when you have Jaden Daniels, who is able to do more things than 99% of quarterbacks that have ever lived, with being able to have the ability with his legs, and being able to have being so cerebral as a rookie quarterback, it makes sense. And look, it's part in the end, Chris, as you mentioned, like we kind of underrated Dan Quinn going through those head coaching cycles, because the well got poisoned so much because of how ridiculous that 28-3 collapse was, where, look, he wasn't the only one who was culpable in that. Kyle Shanahan was, Matt Ryan was, the Atlanta defense was. So, still angry about that 10 years later, Chris. The Atlanta 4.5 dying as bad of a death as there ever was in any sort of NFL playoff game. All right, let's go to the other game. But before we do that, shout out to our guy, Joe Frieda, who gave us a super chat. Congratulated Alex on her 2nd place finish, and also wish Alex the belated happy birthday as well. That's why Alex was not here yesterday. It was her birthday. Well deserved day off. Bear, the other game, Kansas City, Buffalo. We do it again for the 4th time in the playoffs. I don't need to go through it. We all know it. Bills have never beat them in a playoff game in this era with Allen against Mahomes. It's 2. It's down to -125 on the money line, which is interesting, actually, Alex. And 48.5 now on the total, Bear, for this one.
Yeah, well, wouldn't you just lay 125 on the money line instead of 2? Like, I mean, because one is a kind of a key number. Like when you get to the postseason and teams potentially maybe after that overtime going for 2, like especially you have the Super Bowl scenario, but moving forward. But I did not play anything in this game outside of taking some some flyers on like Chris Jones as a Super Bowl MVP moving forward. My colleague and friend and your friend, buddy Will Hill, kind of I think really summed this game up the best. Like, you're going to feel pretty stupid if you bet this game and lose, regardless of what way it lands. Because if you bet against the Chiefs, it's going to be like, oh, what am I doing betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? And they always beat him in the playoffs. And why did you do that? And if you get bet at the other side, it's like the Bills already beat him. The Chiefs weren't as good as they were all year. You kind of saw it coming. So like you could make a really impassioned argument for both sides. But I guess if I did have to play the game, I would ultimately fall in line with the side that I just said and just take Chiefs money line, essentially, just because until the Goliath is slayed, until someone goes in there and beats them, other than Joe Burrow in a game that the Chiefs had in full control and lost in overtime and kind of gave that game away, and then you had the Brady overtime game as well that they wound up losing. Like, until they lose, and it's hard to pick against them. So if you're looking for a play in this game, I would consider just taking a Chiefs money line bet for hey, look, haven't lost a playoff game in quite a few years. The percentages are pretty high that they will continue that streak going. But again, I think there is a good portion of the fan base out there that would like to see Buffalo ultimately get there and have a chance at winning the Super Bowl. But what have we seen from the injury report today? We know Rapp is out, but like what about Benford and they had someone else who was, I think, beat up as well, right?
Yeah, so we know Rapp is not playing here today. That is already locked in on the Bills front. As of right now, we still don't know exactly on Benford. He was still questionable as of yesterday, but it's concussion protocol, so
yeah,
that makes it a little bit different. Kansas City is very healthy, all things considered. Even though Mike Caliendo will be a starter on that line today, which and might not be the greatest of things for Kansas City. But Alex, this is a matchup we have seen so many times in the postseason already, and we get to do it again here in about 3 o'clock, about 7 hours from now.
And I'm really impressed with this Bills team, and they keep overdoing my expectations for them. Bear, I'm curious where you had them going into the year. No Diggs, kind of made some changes on the defensive side. And I mean, James Cook is having an outstanding year. Josh Allen is having his best year. Did you have the Bills here, or was there another team in the AFC you thought would be here with the Chiefs?
I thought it was the Chiefs moving forward. I thought it was Chiefs or Ravens, honestly. I did have expectations for the Jets, but that was obviously probably more hope than anything ever realistic. I was not on the Dolphins bandwagon as all. I kind of thought it was Kansas City or Baltimore moving forward, but it certainly it doesn't surprise me that a team led by Josh Allen certainly did wind up making this run. So I'm curious, like, where do you guys stand on the total here in this game? Because I know people kind of think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and maybe these offenses finally explode, and maybe if Buffalo is beat up on defense, maybe the Chiefs can go up and down the field. But this is a Kansas City team that had, 212 yards last week in that game against Houston. Josh Allen last week against the Ravens completed 16 passes for 127 yards. I think it was 26 yards. Like, neither offense has really shown much in the postseason so far. Again, not a massive sample size, but this has kind of been an issue with the Chiefs all year, where kind of you're laying big numbers with them and they just can't seem to get going. But again, Hollywood Brown now in there, Worthy becoming a bigger part of the offense. You always knew you're going to get Kelsey. Maybe this could be the week that they put it all together. But I kind of feel like this is more of an under game. I don't know about you guys.
I did end up going with the over here, but I was with you. My dad just had such a big difference on the total and going over, and then looking at their post games, previous games, 38-24, 42-36, 27-24. So just when you have two really good quarterbacks like this, I'm expecting them to get points in here. I don't know if you had a opinion.
We're opposite. Where's Vinny when you need him? I want to ask you, Chris, because part of the reason on my end is Kansas City hasn't turned the ball over since they played Buffalo last. That was in November. the Bills are on this absurd run of just creating turnovers and not turning it over themselves. I mean, they have a top 10 turnover differential for the league's history in the last 20 years right now. This just kind of feels like this could be almost, I don't want to call it a slop fest because that's a little bit unfair, but it wouldn't shock me one bit if we see both turnover regression things hit each other in the head here in this game. That's part of the reason that I like the under. I think this might just be a little more of a sloppy game than we expected here.
It certainly could, because we've seen Patrick Mahomes kind of get sloppy with the ball when he kind of tries to wedge it in there and maybe avoid the sack and just makes a bad decision under pressure. We've seen that from time to time. Brent, like I said, you haven't seen it in a while. And at the same time, with the Chiefs, with those healthy DBs now, with McDuffie and Watson out there, there's certainly a possibility with the Bills wide receivers, but you don't know what you're going to get from any of those guys week in and week out. We certainly could see a turnover. Maybe so. Are you saying maybe we look for a nice little number of turnovers in the game, over 2.5 type of prop?
Oh boy, wow! You got to be getting a good price on that, right, Bear? If you're going over 2.5,
I think so.
I mean, you got to get a real price on that. I mean, again, this is just one of those games where I'm with what you said that Will said. Like, this is, to me, of this Kansas City run. This is, even though last year a little bit of revisionist history. Last year, Kansas City was 10-1 to win the Super Bowl going into the playoffs. So they were
coming off that terrible game against
the Raiders.
On Christmas.
Yeah, like we kind of do a little revisionist history with them last year. So this is a bottom 2 team that they've had in the Reed Mahomes era this year to me. Buffalo, it's funny. I think this is the worst roster they've had with Allen, but this might be the best constructed team just because I think their coordinators are better. Joe Brady's much better than Dorsey. I think he's on par with Dable by the time Dable left. But again, like, how can you, when Kansas City inevitably wins this game 23-20 on a Butker kick with 2 seconds left? If you bet Buffalo, it's like, wait a second, why did I do this to myself again? It's kind of like exactly what Will said.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I wish we were going to be able to say future Jets head coach Joe Brady, but
yeah, well,
we'll have to deal with seeing the Aaron Glenn fake spike, Mark Ingram catching it in the end zone for the next 7 months now to bring back the Aaron Glenn era.
All I will say, Bear, is they didn't hire Arthur Smith. They didn't hire Matt Nagy. I'll live with it. Let's see what happds. First-time head coach?
Exactly.
We don't know. We have no idea. And the Jets did not do what Dallas did, which is also good. So yeah, that's a different discussion for a different time. Brian Schottenheimer getting that job on Friday night. When I heard that, I started laughing for 10 straight minutes. Could it work? Sure. But it's Jerry. Probably won't at this point. All right, Bear, before we let you go, I actually want to go off topic real quick because we're now, everyone, of course, we're down to 3 football games, period. We're less than 2 months away from the NCAA tournament starting. And yesterday, I was having this conversation with my dad yesterday. I think losing Kansas money line yesterday is and thankfully, I think that's the second worst loss I've ever had, only trailing that Northern Iowa debacle against A&M all those years ago now, which is still probably the worst one ever, the 11 points in 51 seconds and not getting there. But is there anything college basketball-wise, betting-wise with college hoops that stands out to you so far this year, as we now will have a lot of people starting to turn the page into that with having only 1 football game remaining after today?
I think it's, again, this is nothing. I have not paid a super ton of attention futures-wise in college hoops. I made 3 bets preseason. Again, I played Houston, I played Oregon 100-1, and I played Auburn at 30-1 preseason.
That's a great number.
Now the challenge, I feel good about that. Even I hate saying that because those numbers are not available. It was funny because someone even asked me yesterday, like who's good? And I said, Tennessee's good, Auburn's good, Duke's good, Houston's good. Other than that, I think the key is going to be trying to find the price right now of a team that's constructed that maybe could make a tournament run at a good number. I'm sure the price on Oregon is still pretty good. The price on Michigan, I'm sure is probably pretty good with Golden and May and the team that they've constructed there. Like trying to find maybe a team like VCU out there at a number that maybe can make a run. But I think now it's just a good study to just kind of pick off some prices on some teams that maybe were thought of pretty highly before the year. And maybe the regular season hasn't gone their way. Maybe they've lost some close games. Maybe there's some. Obviously, always go through your Ken Palm and your KPI and stuff, and see what type of differences there is between teams and market price, if indeed there is one, and just try and find some good numbers that are going to kind of decrease and get a little bit worse as we get to March Madness.
He's the Bear, Chris Felica. You can find him on the tweets at Chris Felica, Bear Bets Podcast as well. I know you'll have a busy 2 weeks diving through hundreds of Super Bowl props on the pod. And, of course, whoever wins these 2 games, we'll all be talking about it for 13 and a half days starting later tonight before they meet 2 Sundays from now in New Orleans. Chris, pleasure as always. Thanks for hanging with us today.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Chris
you, Chris
Felica, everyone. All right, Alex, let's start getting into some official plays on our end. And let's start with the NFC game. We talked about it a little bit in the open. So here's where I'm looking in this game. We're at 6 right now on this one. I really want to find the angle to bet Washington here, but I just can't get there. Everything that the Bears said, I think, checks out to me. You have a young team. You have a defense that is still lacking. You have a defense also playing without one of its 3 best players today, with Payne not playing. You're facing an Eagle team that is just loaded with talent, even if Jalen Hurts is not 100%. And most importantly, the best unit in this game is the Philadelphia defense. And I think this will be a theme in both games here. The team with the better defense ends up winning these games here today, which we'll get to KC Buffalo a little bit later. I can't get there with laying the 6, but if you could find a reasonable money line price on Philadelphia, I almost never advocate for laying a big, like anything north of $2. But if you can find like a minus 250, minus 260 out there, I think you can get away with it on Philadelphia today. I just have a hard time seeing the Eagles blowing this game outright. This could very easily be Philly wins, Washington covers, but Philly's just better in the end. They're at home. They find a way to go to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years.
I agree. I mean, playing the 4 games on the road to get to this spot, I think it will catch up to the Commanders. And if you look at the 2 games that they played this year, I mean, this Philly defense really shut down almost all of their big players. Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson really struggled running the ball. So I do think that it's a tough task here for the Commanders. I loved what Bear said with the team total for the Eagles. I think I might look at it that way, playing 26.5 if I can still find that and go over that for the Eagles here. But ultimately, I do think they win. And I'm kind of on the same page too as the Bear. I think they either win comfortably or we could have an upset here with the Commanders. So.
By the way, if you need a place to watch the game, not only can you watch it behind us, as Chris Andrews has said on multiple occasions on these shows, our show, Punchlines, wherever else we may find Chris, just a couple hundred paces to our right in the showroom, the best television in Las Vegas, free entry, doors open at 11, cash giveaways, great prices on food and drink. Both games being shown in the showroom, just a couple hundred paces, right by the lobby here at the South Point. So be on the lookout for that here today over at the showroom here at the South Point. Unbelievable screen, by the way, if you've never watched a game in there. And also those food prices. Can't beat them, as always, here at the South Point. So, Alex, I just want to ask you this, because the total wise, like the discussion on the total, I think is the most fascinating thing in both of these games. By the way, Chris and Company market high right now at 47 on this game. There's a lot of 46.5 that just popped on my screen in front of me at other shops. This is the harder total game for me. If you told me Philadelphia won this game 23 to 16, something in that pocket, 23-17, yeah, sure. I could see that for sure, and it goes under pretty easily. If you told me Philadelphia won 31-27, Yeah, I could see that too. I think Washington's offense is capable of putting up points even on this elite Philly defense. This total is a very difficult look for me here today.
Well, especially looking at the two games last week, right? We saw the Rams go down and score on this Eagles defense right away. It was 13-7 after the first quarter. And then we saw the Commanders, their crazy second quarter against Detroit. So that makes you think it's going to be an over. But, I mean, the fact that they played each other twice already this year, very familiar with one another, I couldn't bet I couldn't bet the whole game over. But, yeah, I like the Eagles team total for sure.
So looking at prop-wise here today, Saquon Barkley, if you are interested, and this is just, geez, DraftKings is 125.5 right now on Saquon rushing yards. Vinny, what are you guys? What are we sitting at behind us here right now? Vinny has just walked in. He has his laptop in front of him, as he always does.
That's right.
On these, I can tell you, it's probably not. It's not going to be that high here. Correct, right, Vinny? 125.5 on Barkley and some other shops.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Vinny's saying that's a lot if you don't hear him at home. But we'll get you that. Bottom right, I think, on the sheet, Vinny. But
that's right. His median is 122.
It's high. Yeah, I mean, look, when you run for 2,000 yards, like, yeah, your number is going to be high. But boy, that's just an eye-popping number on that front. But the guy that I am looking to attack here today is one that I think is a name that you are not going to expect here today, Alex. And I'm looking to attack the former Eagle Zach Ertz here today on the Washington side. Reliable pass catcher, familiar to the moment. Of course, the Super Bowl champion in Philadelphia in the past. You have to rely on your veteran, reliable players here in this game if you're Washington. I like Ertz over his receiving yards at 33.5. I like Ertz over his receptions as well today at 3.5. Maybe even look for a 4 with a little less juice than a 3.5. But that's the guy that I would look at here today for Washington. I think McLaurin, as you mentioned, Philadelphia did a great job taking McLaurin out of the first matchup between these teams. By the way, 130.5, Sean? Oh boy, you guys are even higher, Vinny, on the Barkley total. Wow. Yeah, I can't.
Got to do with the Hurts situation.
You know what the sick part of it is, Alex?
Yeah.
You know what the sick part is? I can't advocate it under. Even at 130.
Well, if you think that. Good morning.
Good morning. By the way, yes.
If you think that Hurts is not 100%, which obviously he's probably not, then makes sense that Barkley gets more of the load, right?
Such a huge number. I know you've got bet there too, so I can't even say much else on that. But Alex, that's the guy I want to attack. I want to attack Ertz today. Just I think the reliability, and also too, I like what Bear said as well. Dallas Goedert, if you want to take Dallas Goedert props, I think that's also okay. I think Hurts is going to be willing to get the ball out quicker than usual, and that's going to be more Goddard than the receivers, more likely than not, for Philadelphia.
Yep, I really like that Zach Ertz one, especially we saw 5 receptions the last week, 28 yards, so they are starting to go to him more and more. Like you said, veteran, and you know I love a good revenge spot.
So Vinny is here, as we've already mentioned on multiple occasions. The laptop is in full functionality, by the way, today. It's right in front of him. So I just want to ask you real quick, more so than anything, on this game first, before we go to the second game. And Alex and I haven't given our plays yet on the second game, so we'll dive into that fully in a moment. But the big question here, more so than anything, just from a betting perspective, because you've said it, Chris, you said it all week, where you opened at 5. The initial bet was a take on the underdog, and now it's come back the other way and has been pretty stable. Well, not pretty stable. It's been stable for 6 days on 6 since Monday. Yeah. And total has finally moved down to 47. But, Vinny, this is just a game where a lot of two-way based off the way that these numbers have been pretty stand pat here.
On the point spread,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at I think there's a little bit more money line action on the dog. Actually, both dogs.
That makes sense.
And when we get to the second game, it's actually more so. So, but yeah, this one pretty good two-way action, which obviously is what we like. I mean, the best scenario here for the house is going to be at this point. I don't know. I don't think it'll change that much. I think is Eagles to win the game, but not cover. So Eagles by less than a touchdown. I think that's how it's going to play out.
Well, if it happens, that's a good result for you guys. There's no middling here today. You can't really middle a NFL game on 5. If that happens, then that's just bad luck. You just said
it. That's like
that's bad luck. I said it would be bad luck. When's the last time you remember?
Game? You ever see the graphics? You ever see that? I mean, even the announcers they know they're the kiss of death. What's the matter? What are you saying there? Oh my goodness! Game just fell 5. How about that?
If it falls 5, I will not apologize.
I heard a thud. Chris, I'm going to go back there. Chrissy's going to have to be resuscitated. My goodness.
Alex, any other official plays that we have not mentioned on your end for this game?
That's it.
Yeah, I like, again, Philadelphia. I think what Vinny said is probably right. In the end, I think Philadelphia wins, but Washington covers. Tight game, but Philly advances to the Super Bowl.
Keep an eye. I mean, obviously we talked about the injuries, but Cam Jurgens is probably going to be a game time decision now for the year, even though he's practiced.
Yeah.
But and on the other side, the Commanders have. Both an interior lineman that's Cosme is out for them. So offensive line injuries are more important now, or have become more important. And I've mentioned it before that bettors were, particularly professional bettors, were way ahead of that for a long time than we were.
Well, and also too, we mentioned it earlier on the Commanders side, Daron Payne. Their defensive tackle is out. That's a huge deal in this game. Yep. You mentioned Cosme on Friday. Big knee injury last week suffered in Detroit. His season's done. As of right now, Cam Jurgens is currently warming up on the field as of a minute ago from Jeff McClain, who does a great job covering the Philadelphia Eagles out of the city of Philly. So we'll keep you updated if we get anything. Again, be on social media. Those injury reports will come out. This game starts at noon Pacific. The injury report, the official injury inactives will come out about 11:15 Pacific time here this morning.
Okay. That's
to the other game. Alex, we haven't said too much on this. I think Chris Felica kind of echoed my sentiment on this game more so than anything, where regardless of what side you end up betting on it, if it manages to lose, it's like, well, if I bet Buffalo, why did I really bet against Kansas City against Buffalo in a big game? Of course, Buffalo wasn't going to go beat them in Arrowhead after not being able to beat them 3 straight. Kansas City's beat them 3 straight times in the playoffs. Or on the flip side, it's like, of course Buffalo was due.
Right.
Of course the Bills were finally going to go there and win and beat one of the weaker, probably the second weakest team that Kansas City has had in this run with Mahomes and Andy Reid. It's 48 and a half on the total here. You're starting to see some 49s in the market, including 149 and a half that just popped at Circa. But Alex, again, Buffalo, Kansas City, Allen, Mahomes 4 in the postseason, with Allen trying to finally get win number 1 in this matchup against KC.
So we talked about it Thursday. I do have the Chiefs 3.5 here at home over the Bills, but I'm not going to bet the side either. Okay. I am on the over here. I could see a scenario though where they do start out slow and get some punts if you want to wait and do in game and get a better number. But I think these two quarterbacks, we're going to get some points in this game.
You know, the thing about the Chiefs in this game is this is the healthiest they've been in probably certainly the second half of the season.
Yep.
So, which is scary for the Bills, right?
Yep.
This game, believe it or not, this is public versus pro. Pros are more on the Chiefs in this game than the public is on the Bills, from what we've seen so far, particularly on the money line. I mean, obviously it's a short spread, and if you think that the Bills are going to cover the 2, then you think they can win the game. Right. So I think that's certainly driven a lot of folks towards the Bills, and again, that this will have some care. But by the way, don't forget we talked about it too with Chris Andrews on Friday. The carryover from the Monday night game, which was bet very heavily, had carryover going to it from the 10 previous NFL playoff games, and now it kind of jump starts what we're going to see here today too. So, but great action, and of course, we'll have the we'll have the Super Bowl posted, barring a major injury, particularly to either quarterback. Once this game is over, then the Super Bowl will be posted. And by the way, don't forget the showroom here at the South Point. I want to let folks know, for anybody that's here in town, the showroom is open today. It's free of charge. Great pricing, and everything is available in the showroom today. So just really getting ahead of in our Super Bowl mode, where it takes over the entire property. Well, today these two games will have a similar effect. So showroom here at South Point is open, free admission for our visitors and locals as well.
I think there might even be a Frank Nicotero sighting there.
I have a feeling that he'll be there. I do hope he gets clearance from folks when he starts filming a reaction to things.
Frank is on an over, I'm assuming, in one of these games. Oh, he's on the chucker bet, actually. That's what he's on, at least in the first game. So, Alex, for official plays on my end in this game, Travis Kelce over receiving yards again. We're doing it again. Still don't think the number's been raised enough. Still mad at myself. I just didn't ladder last week. We would have won every single thing, all the way up to over 100. But Travis Kelce doesn't look. We know what he is at this point. Just get through the regular season without a major injury, and show up when it matters most. Now, granted, he's not the same guy. We saw that on that breakaway one last week, where in the past he would have scored by 10 yards, and the guys chased him down pretty easily last week. But look, he performs in the big games. And in the end here, who is the most reliable target for Patrick Mahomes? It's Travis Kelce. And there's injuries in the secondary for Buffalo as well that will impact the way that they have to cover Travis Kelce in this game as well. Rapp is already out. We already know that.
Yes.
And then Benford, who, yes, I know technically not secondary, but another impact guy who could get some run at Kelce. We don't know if he's going to play yet, still in concussion protocol as of last night. And then I'm on Kansas City. If Buffalo beats me, so be it. They haven't done it yet. I don't expect it to begin today. I think when this is all said and done, Alex, what did I say about the first game? The team with the better defense wins the game. That's why I like Philadelphia in the first game to win outright. That's why I like Kansas City to win this game as well. Their defense is still better than Buffalo's defense. And look, I know Buffalo's on a generational turnover run right now, and Kansas City's on a pretty darn good one themselves. One of those two streaks is snapping today, and I would lean towards Buffalo's generational turnover run snapping more so than Kansas City's here today.
And to Vinny's point, I mean, the Chiefs are the healthiest that they have been all year, and they are definitely the healthiest of all the four teams left. So it'll be a tough task to stop them.
Yeah, I think the turnover aspect is a key point that you mentioned, Jeff, because of the four teams playing today, they don't have a turnover in the playoffs, right? I mean, their turnover margin is off the charts. So we'll see, if that ends today. But that's going to be a critical part, no question about it. All these teams have valued the ball and taken advantage of turnovers in the playoffs so far.
Official place for me in this is over that 48.5 for the game, and then Josh Allen over 48.5 rushing
South
yards.
Point just went to 49 on the game.
There you go.
So,
by the way, Buffalo's plus 24 in the regular season turnover-wise. And then so far this postseason, of course, they were plus 3 last week.
Yeah.
So that makes it 27. And then against Buffalo, including the Denver game, there are actually no turnovers in that game. So 27 plus 27 is an outrageous number for a turnover differential for Buffalo.
I think these four teams are plus 15 combined in the postseason. So.
Well, Washington and Buffalo were plus 8 by themselves last week. So you're in a scenario
good stuff
on that. Chat wise, well, Flo is causing chaos as he usually is. Good for Flo. Keith Lyle, better known as Kyle, is also in there. JR in the ballpark. Jim's in there. Good to see Jim in there. Not Sean. Well, that's the name we're going with today, Sean. Not Sean, okay. And then some new names. Young Tino, Scott N., and then 40 Kid, who likes Philadelphia and Buffalo in a teaser, which actually, got to imagine, Vinny, Bills Eagles teasers will probably be prevalent here today.
There are dog teasers are our favorite teasers, so teasers for both games on both sides. Yeah, very popular.
So,
You
Alex,
saw Ryan's teaser in there too?
what did our friend Ryan McCormick have to say, actually?
He said 7-point teaser, Washington plus 13 and Buffalo plus 9.
That would be dog. One of those dog ones Vinny was talking about on that front. All right. South Point just moved to 49 on the Chiefs game, as Vinny pointed out. There's a bunch of 49.5 in the market as well. Vinny, do we see how high do we see that number go? Especially if the first game goes over.
Well, I think the likelihood of it continuing to go up, and I think the fact that it's been now 49 for a few minutes, I think anybody looking to bet the under is going to wait a little bit, right? Because they know that the public. Listen, these are two very popular teams with offensive players, and people who play fantasy that have these players during the course of the year, they're not going to bail on them now, and that contributes to the school of thought, believe it or not, on the over. So I could see it. It's more likely to go up than come back down.
All right, Kansas City and Philadelphia advance for me. Alex, who advances for you?
Kansas City and Philadelphia.
I'm going chalk on the desk here. No two-way. Sorry, Vinny.
You missed a landslide.
You missed the two-way earlier. We disagree on the total in the Kansas City game, but I'm going to have to wait now. Yep. And Alex, if you haven't played that, you're going to have to get in immediately because that number might not be there.
Well, plus, Jeff, you just, not long ago, the game's going to fall 5.
No,
so,
I've
got to spend. I got to spend the next hour reviving Chris.
Come on, Vinny, if that game lands 5,
you'll what?
Oh, I don't want it to land 5. I want Washington to cover all numbers here today. That seems to be the best result for you guys.
Whatever happens, happens.
I'm a company man, my friend.
Let the games begin. We'll be ready for the Super Bowl. Look,
as Vinny
futures
said,
will come into play. Don't forget, futures get posted today, too, for conference. And, of course, all the props.
As Vinny said, of course, Super Bowl line will be up shortly after Kansas City and Buffalo ends, assuming there's no major injuries in either of the games. Prop booklet, Vinny, real quick, just the process on the props for everything.
Process starts actually tonight. We're formulating, or formatting, right? I mean, and I have to tell you, the staff here at South Point does a terrific job. When you see the organization that goes in, the pricing, you have to obviously you're going to spend some time on the pricing. But it's the configuring of the sheets, organizing of the sheets. You're putting in stipulations and things like that. So that's what the administrative part of it is. What takes time. But the staff is actually already working on formatting a lot of the props. They started yesterday. So that's something that we try to get ahead of. And again, credit to the staff for the job they do here. They really do great, from the writers at the windows to the supervisors on the line and in the back, in-game folks. It's a great team effort. It really is. Sounds pretty pedestrian, but there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot. It is truly a team effort, and the staff here does a great job.
It's going to be a heck of a 2 weeks, as it always is. The lead up to the big game in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59. We'll know the two teams later today. And tomorrow, the first time we'll be previewing it on this channel will be Alex and Kenny. We'll be all ready to go at 9 a.m., previewing the big game, previewing what's coming on Monday as well in sports. Frank Nicotero with Punchlines tomorrow at noon on Punchlines FN on YouTube. And also, too, we're going to have some more content as well, not particularly live shows, but content that will be on the YouTube page right here, Sports by the Book, coming this week. We'll actually hear from Ian Eagle later this week, Vinny. We'll be hearing from him.
All right.
We'll have Matt Hamilton, an interview that will pop up tomorrow as well. Alex, good luck. Vinny, good luck as well, I guess. Drew Dog, Sean.
Did you see the poll, though? Or, everybody in the chat is rooting for the Bills and the Commanders.
It's stunning on that. Stunning.
Puppies.
Stunning. They are.
We've needed the Chiefs all year, so.
They're underdogs, and they're like the Twitter holding up the pitchfork mob on Kansas City. But that's a different discussion for a different time. So, all right, we'll see you again 9 a.m. tomorrow. Alex and Kenny will be here right here on Sports by the Book.